Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about a little device, this little guy here, and it is a fingertip pulse oximeter. And I'm going to talk about the wonderful benefits that this can give all of us that might have trouble going up above 8,000 feet. But want to be able to try to do it and be safe. Are you ready to get started? And let's talk about the wonders of this. Alright, I also want to put out a disclaimer that I am not here to give out any medical advice or to suggest you do anything without discussing any product that I'm talking about, showing you, or discussing without going to your doctor first, especially if you have any underlying medical issues. You want to make sure you talk to your doctor first before going up above 8,000 feet, because most people can have problems with acute mountain sickness at 8,000 feet or above. Now also keep in mind, as we age and our bodies get older, you might have been able to go up above 8,000 feet and all of a sudden you decide to take a trip and go up, above 8,000 feet, and all of a sudden that particular situation or trip, it turned out totally different, okay? And that happened to me a couple of years ago. I never had any problems going, at high elevation. But I honestly couldn't say that I've ever gone above 8,000 feet, maybe around 7. But even some people can have trouble at 7,000 feet. But most, they say 8,000 and above, it can be definitely a hard or risky situation for some individuals. But I just want you to be aware that our bodies can change, and it won't hurt to have one of these little devices with you just as a precautionary measure. It's not very expensive, and it's painless to keep an eye on your oxygen levels. Okay, so with that in mind, discuss anything and everything with your doctor before going up above 8,000 feet or trying any of these things that I might be suggesting. Okay? Alright, so let's get going. So what this is going to check is your blood oxygen levels in your red blood cells. Okay? It's going to give a percentage. The number that you want is going to be 95 to about 100, but you don't have to panic if it's about 90. But again, go over readings with your doctor, and also if you have any underlying health issues that they need to be more concerned with your oxygen levels, okay? But on an average, that's what we're looking for. So when you go to check your oxygen levels, this also can be off by about 2%, okay? 2% high or 2% low, around there. So it's pretty close. But I wouldn't say it's 100%, but it's definitely going to give you a close enough reading, okay? So for instance, if it was showing that your reading was about 92, you could be off. It could be anywhere from 90 to maybe even 94%, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind. Now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to check your oxygen levels. It's also going to give you your heart rate, okay? So we're going to turn it on, and it's going to tell you, say, finger out. We're going to put the finger in and make sure your finger is all the way in the back and keep your finger level, okay? Not up, not down, just kind of level, and just wait. See, I'm 92, 91, 92, so it's going to fluctuate just a tiny bit. I just try to be, you know, calm, just kind of rest and see where it's going to end up when it stops moving a lot and fluctuates. I'm showing about 93 now, 92. Okay, so again, we say 95 to 100 is perfect reading, but remember this could be off by about 2%, but I'm not too concerned even at 90 unless I get like way below that. I'm in about the 80s, 70s, definitely something to be considering. But you also want to go by your symptoms, okay? Now I was moving around, I was moving this around to film, so my heart rate is a little bit, you know, kind of hot racing. It's 112, but I was moving around a lot. See, now I'm at 93. So I'm still considering this okay. I don't know if you can see. There it is. Okay, it doesn't hurt. It just kind of like pinches, you know, your finger, and it's painless. It doesn't prick your finger or do anything like that. So what happens if your reading is low and you have symptoms? And we're going to go over what some of those symptoms could be. But I don't have any, and I have had them in the past. We'll talk about that 2 years ago, what I went through. So I do have that to refer back to. But if you don't have anything to refer back to, I highly recommend that you go online and you study the 3 different types of acute mountain sickness and what those symptoms can be. They have a lower level one, which they consider the acute mountain sickness, and I'm going to actually read and go over this from my iPad so I don't mess this up, because, you know, as you know, in my age, I have a little bit of memory issues just normally, you know, from getting old. But I'm going off of the site is WebMD, okay? And the 3 different types, the first is acute mountain sickness, AMS, is the mildest form and is very common. The symptoms can feel like a hangover, dizziness, headache, muscle aches, nauseous, okay, you could be, or nausea. Now, when I went through, I still consider I was the low level, but I'm not entirely sure, maybe if I was getting a little more than that. But one of the things that I knew I was in trouble was 2 years ago when I was in Utah. I was up above 9,000 feet, okay, up by Willow Lake. And anytime I moved around, even to get up from the chair to over here, I mean any slight movement, even in a rest, I was just like out of breath. I had labor breathing. Whenever I walked around anywhere, let alone here, going between Kent's truck back to my van, just walking around, I was just so out of breath. And it actually started the place before Willow Lake. That was like the next place we went to. And as time went on, I wasn't getting better. When usually they say after a few days you'll start to acclimate, but I wasn't acclimating. It just seemed like I was getting worse instead of better, so that's why I ended up going online and trying to figure out, wait a minute, maybe I have acute mountain sickness. So one of the things at that level, they say you could go down to lower elevation and then slowly work your way back up again and give that a try. but I didn't do that. I'm kind of a little stubborn, probably more stubborn than I should be. And at that point, I just continued to stay. Well, I just ended up being tired. I wanted to sleep all the time. I really felt kind of puny. I also read that drinking a lot more water, liquids, that also being dehydrated can definitely cause more issues. So I beefed up my water intake. They say make sure you don't drink alcohol, just lots of water, and up your carbs. And I was on a low carb diet at that time, so I started to beef up my carbs a little bit to a normal, you know, like what a normal person would be eating, because I had reduced mine, and I did start to feel better. Was I ever 100%? No, I was still kind of out of breath, you know, going back and forth or kind of moving around. But a lot of the symptoms did get a little bit easier, enough that I didn't feel that I had to go down to lower elevation. Also, I found out at the end of that year that I was also struggling with high blood pressure. So now I'm on top of my high blood pressure, definitely been more hydrated. I was at a high elevation in the fall when I came out to Utah, and I was absolutely fine. I had this gauge. I got this before I came out here, and I kept checking. I think the lowest I ever got was about 88%, maybe around there, 87, but nothing again I had to worry about. I had no symptoms, so I felt fine that I didn't have to beef up my oxygen level or anything like that. So when do you start to get concerned? Talk this over once again with your doctor, okay? As long as my blood pressure, I checked my blood pressure, I was fine, and heart rate was fine. I went by my other symptoms. So I seem to not get low, really low or dangerously low into the 80s or anything like that. I watched a person's channel once where she was teaching someone about backpacking and hiking, and she had a real big problem with acute mountain sickness, and her reading was 60, and I'm like, oh my gosh, give that girl some oxygen. So I don't know, I'd be definitely doing some emergency measures by that number. I wouldn't even let it get that low, okay? So one of the things that I have got, and I'm ready in case I do have some problems this summer, I am going to be going up in high elevation again in about another week or so above 9,000 feet. Okay, like where I was in the fall. I had no problems then, and I'm pretty confident I'm going to be okay again this time. But just in case, they do sell a couple products, and I brought two. So if one didn't work, I got a backup plan. So one is Altitude RX Natural Remedy for Altitude Sickness. And then the other one is Acclimate Mountain Sport Drink Altitude Energy Hydration. So I've got two forms of bringing up those oxygen levels in case I need to. Whether I will or not, time will tell, but I'll be ready, and with this little device. Now I want to go over the more too serious, really serious, or altitude sickness is what they call it, symptoms, in case you go into the other ones. So the other two is high altitude pulmonary edema. It's HAPE, and it is a buildup of fluid in the lungs and can be very dangerous and even life-threatening. Okay, so learn the symptoms of that in case you start to have any issues. So the third one is high altitude Cerebral edema, HACE, is the most severe form of altitude sickness, and it happens when there's fluid in the brain. Okay, it is life-threatening and you need to seek medical attention right away. So see how it's important to be on those numbers? And the symptoms you may have is headache, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, fatigue or loss of energy, shortness of breath, problems with sleep, and loss of appetite. Okay, symptoms usually come on within 12 to 24 hours of reaching high elevations, and then it gets better within 1 or 2 days as your body adjusts and changes to the altitude. But if you have a more moderate case of altitude sickness, your symptoms might feel more intense and not improve with over-the-counter medications. This is one of those over-the-counter. Instead of feeling better at this time and it goes on, you'll feel worse and you'll have more shortness of breath and fatigue. So I, as I mentioned before, was not getting better at first. But I didn't have any of these things to help me. All I went by what I could go online and read, and I started at least making sure I was hydrated and up those carbs. And it did help me to level out somewhat, where I felt a little better. Like I said, 100%, but I felt better, where I didn't have to go down lower. But it definitely was an eye-opener of how serious going up to how high altitude can be for some people. Okay, so definitely look into getting one of these fingertip pulse oximeter, all right, and have it on hand so you'll be ready. And when you discuss this with your doctor, where would they be concerned? Because again, I have high blood pressure, so where my level, you know, or I have other issues, remember, lots of stuff going on. I'm diet-controlled diabetic as well, which plays a role in somebody who might not have high blood pressure or being diet-controlled diabetic. Where you need to come down or where you need emergency care or anything like that might fall a little bit different, okay? But I found that I did okay. See, I'm okay. I'm 94 and I'm at 5,600 feet here, so nothing really high, but I'm above 90, and this is okay normal for me, and I feel fine. I'm not out of breath when I move around. I'm not at that high level, but it kind of helps me by checking before I get to that high altitude, where is my base right now? So that also gives me something to think about when I start to go low. How low is going to be very concerning for me, because I kind of don't run above 95 as a rule. I've been checking myself at about 5,500 feet already since I've been here in Utah. Okay, so I hope these tips have helped you to stay safe. If you want to go up above 8,000 feet in the summer and stay cool, you'll have some of these things on hand. If you have anything else to say or you want to discuss, put your comments down below and let's talk about it. And everybody stay cool, stay safe, and have fun the rest of the summer. And I'll see you in the next video. Now, first of all, you can find a okay, so I want to, why do I always say okay?